Hello, how is everyone doing today? I'm Fiadh. I'm an energy and spirit worker, Reiki Master, and Healing Arts Practitioner. And today, what I wanted to offer or talk about was a little project I've been working on with myself, developing relationships with plant spirits, with my plant allies, specifically to heal my relationship with time. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, my perspectives of what plant allies I found helpful on a physical level, whether we're looking at teas and tinctures and taking the more chemical constituents of plants, as well as on the more relationship energetic level, where you're forming, I say this as a spirit worker, giving a little context. Everything has a spirit. I believe everything has a spirit. Everything has its own soul. So when we're working with plant allies, we are forming relationships with the spirits, with the souls of those plants, or of those animals, or of that force of nature, whatever it may be. So when I'm speaking of an energetic level, this is about the relationship, the stories, the pieces of art, or the wisdom you gain or you experience when you're working with these allies. And these are just some of the ones, pardon, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit. These are just the ones that I have found to be the most in tune with my own relationship to time, which I come from a background of, I live in the US, is a culture of high productivity, high stress, urgency, and stress and anxiety and base survival are kind of the norms here. And as someone with anxiety who tends to take on a lot, I've also gotten into the habit of hurry sickness, of feeling like you have to multitask everything. Like there's not enough time in a day for all of the things that you, at your bare minimum, need to do. And also losing perspective of time is a resource. It is not the enemy. It is not something we necessarily need to be limited by. It is just the resource. And what we invest our time into plays a role in how we experience it and what we gain from using that resource. Hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if it does. I was trying to form that into words and it wasn't quite clicking, but hopefully y'all get the point. So with that being said, that intro out of the way, I'm just going to discuss a few of my favorite little, not very little, allies that I've worked with that I love when it comes to how I've experienced or worked with my own relationship to time and hurrying and feeling urgency when there is none, or feeling like I need to do more and fit more in a given amount of time. And I'm going to begin with two of my ones that I work with more on a physical level. These are those teas, those tinctures. You can use them depending on what kind of herb they are, in aromatherapy or essential oils. But this first one is oats. Oats. Just oats, like what you make oatmeal out of. And I have this tincture of Milky oats that I've been using, and I love it. As well as I was for a while making a daily infusion of oat straw, cold infusing it, which is just putting it in cool water for like 4 to 5 hours and just letting it infuse in the water and drinking it like that. Oat is lovely. It has this really kind of neutral, almost sweet taste. It's a bit cooling on the body. When I'm working with it energetically, it really challenges the need to rush into a relationship with it, with the spirit. Oat is kind of like, you're going to take your time to get to know me. And that's fine. And that shows in its physical constituents, and that it is really good for your nervous system. If you are feeling like you are pressed for time, if you are under a lot of stress and the daily stressors of life keep piling up and you just have to get them all done all the time, that can be very frazzling. That wears you down, and the more worn down we are, the more stressed we are, the more we take on, often the more we kind of close ourselves off, the more our amygdala and our ability to make decisions and prioritize closes itself off. And then we often take on even more and then don't get everything done that we need to in a way that is efficient or makes sense. Or it's almost like everything has the same amount of urgency and priority, which is not a good way to make decisions. It's not a useful tool. And so we just keep on taking it on more. So Milky oats, specifically, if you take them as a tincture, they should be freshly harvested. They are the oat tops of an oat plant, and they often have a filmy, milky substance inside the fresh young oat tops, and that creates a tonic for your nervous system. And any tonic is something that nourishes a body system over time. It strengthens it. So it helps with that kind of frazzled, anxious, rushy, hurried anxiety that your physical body starts to experience when you've just been taking on way too much and you no longer know how to organize or prioritize, and everything has to go really fast because everything is greeted with the same amount of anxiety, with the same amount of rushing. Just kind of slows down the body, gives you the chance to take a step back, to find that moment in the rush to take a breath and remember, oh, maybe I don't have to do everything at once. Maybe certain things can be put on the back burner. Maybe certain things can be delegated. Maybe this just doesn't have to be a real problem. And I'm just under a lot of stress, and it has shut down my decision-making skills. So that is how I have used oat. I'm gonna see, I've went through most of this tincture already, so I don't think there's much liquid left. I'm gonna see if I can try and grab some to show you is like this tiny little droplet. It's this very green, milky, hard to see, green milky substance extraction. And it's just so cooling, so sweet on the body. And I highly recommend it, especially if you are someone who tends to be on the more high-strung side. That one will help reset the nervous system a bit. And after that, that was oat. Oat straw is also very nutritive, by the way. It is high in zinc, vitamin K, iron, I believe, as well as magnesium probably, and other minerals that I'm blanking on. Now with that out of the way, my second favorite herb that I like to use to work with, I don't want to use the word use. This one, and I'm really, a lot of this is coming from a perspective of someone from anxiety and who tends to take on a lot of stress. And I think a lot of us kind of do gravitate towards that aspect of time, of feeling pressured or constrained, or like we have to rush or hurry. So that's just the perspective I'm speaking off of. And this next herbal ally that I love as a tea so pretty. Smells so good. It's passion flower. Passion flower is one of my first like real herbs I worked with when I was getting into herbal medicine and plant spirit medicine. Passion flower is fantastic as a nervine. It is great for the nerves. It is a sedative. If you need help falling asleep, passion flower will help you, but without leaving you so sedated that the next day you feel groggy. It works very gently on the system. If you have the chance, I would recommend Googling passion flower just to look at pictures, because it is genuinely a very gorgeous plant. It has these beautiful purple flowers and these vines. And I will typically drink this as a tea at night. Sometimes I'll blend it with other kind of relaxing, sedating herbs. But passion flower specifically is really good for that type of anxiety where you are getting into a thought spiral. When we're kind of going in circles of all of the things we need to do, all of the things that didn't get done, and how it all builds up together. That keeps us from getting rest, that keeps us from relaxing, that starts affecting our physical muscles and how much tension we're holding. So I think of this as like the loop breaker. When we're in a loop or a thought loop of some sort of constriction in how we're relating to our productivity, our measure of worth, our ability to get things done within a certain amount of time, and how much we need to do, that it doesn't allow us to rest or relax or slow down. Passion flower is here. Passion flower will help kind of break the loop, expand on it, put things back into a bit of a perspective and just let you sleep. Like, sometimes the best use of our time is sleep because we need that. If you are so focused on everything you need to get done that you're not getting enough rest, that's going to severely cut into decision making. It also tastes really lovely. It is this kind of sweet, herbal, not too bitter, grassy taste that I really enjoy. It smells really grassy as well. So that's passion flower for those thought loops, those lack of ability to relax, essentially. If you don't know how to relax, passion flower will help teach you. And sometimes that is the best thing we can do to regain our sense of time and regain our perspective of time and of urgency and of... Pardon, I lost track of where I was. I've had a really bad tickle in my throat. But anyway, I highly recommend a tea of passion flower or a tincture. I just really like using a tea for something I'm working on long term. It's a little bit more gentle on the body, and it really helps allow you to feel the full energetics and constituents of the plant a little bit more. Versus, I feel like tinctures are very good for convenience and more acute issues. So this is passion flower for breaking those thought loops, those stress spirals, that inability to relax. Passion flower will teach you. Now we're moving on to the more energetic side of plant allies. So thinking less of teas and tinctures and more about meditating with these plants, giving them offerings. They don't need to be physical offerings, by the way. This can be a piece of art you're creating with them, or a dance inspired by the plants, or a piece of writing, or even just a glass of water, or talking to them. Think about how you form relationships with other humans, with people, with our animals. It's not necessarily transactional, but it takes time sometimes, and sometimes it goes quicker than others, and we form different relationships with all of them. But regardless of who they are, we do tend to have something that we wind up learning from them. Now I have a flower essence. If you're not familiar with flower essences, they carry the vibration or the frequency of the plant matter that's being used, and they work within your own mental, physical, emotional kind of vibrational field to support us. And this one is very aptly named the Impatiens flower essence, made from an Impatiens plant. It's a flower. It's not really edible that I'm aware of. I don't think it has many physical constituents. I believe the other word for it might be forget-me-nots. And this is a flower essence created by Bach Remedies, which is a pretty popular brand. Now when I work with this, I'm going to speak with from my perspective of how I've worked with this. So this is typically meant to help instill a sense of patience. However, that does show up very differently for all of us. So when I take this one, I'm fidgeting a lot. Just put a couple drops under the tongue. Just take a moment to breathe in and out, allowing yourself to go on a journey, inviting in this plant spirit with whatever lessons, whatever guidance they wish to impart on us. And this one always feels in my body. The best way I can describe it is if you have ever had a deadline, or you think about, like, on a daily basis, you have work in the morning, theoretically. Before you get up to go to work in the morning, there's generally things you have to do. Sometimes you have to shower, you have to get dressed, you have to make yourself breakfast, sometimes make your coffee, make yourself lunch. Just all the general getting ready types of deals. And that can feel very much like we have to, like, rush to get to this deadline. The deadline being the time we have to leave to go to work, or the time we get there, or really any deadline, or you have a party that night. So there's the entire getting ready process. Maybe if you're like me, you have to mentally prepare as well and hype yourself up to socialize. And it can often feel like this tightness of, like, we really, like, need to go, and the deadline doesn't really have a clear distinction in our mind. I just know that, like, I have to rush to get to it. And this Impatiens flower essence is really this sense of taking a big step back, like, big perspective shift of, oh, maybe your sense of timing might be entirely skewed. You don't actually have to fit all of the tasks, rush every single task in order to get to this perceived point. So essentially, it has given me the ability to relate and see time in a perspective that isn't quite as constrained by rushing, by feeling burdened by a deadline, feeling like you have to hurry up to get to this point, but instead recognize the journey, take a breath, maybe see clearly what time looks like. Sometimes people get a little bit of time blindness. That's normal. I'm not saying that this will fix every sort of time blindness everyone has, but it just helps shift the perspective. It's almost like you've been, like, locked in this little human shell bubble microcosm of, like, deadlines and hitting a goal point. And now, oh, you're seeing it from a wider range. You're seeing how it's all coming together and how much time we really actually do have. And why do we need to rush it? That's the best way I can describe it. It's very conceptual, so putting that one into a solid foundation of words was very difficult for me. But that is the Impatiens flower essence for impatience, for the feeling like you have to rush to meet a deadline, and for putting your own time and what time is available to you into a more grounded, expansive perception. And after that one, my one last, I'm really bad at segues, so I'm just listing through them. My last plant ally, which I unfortunately do not have a physical example of it. I have been working on it more on an energetic principle. I've also been working with it with other people a lot, with people who may be experiencing their own kinds of restlessness or anxiety regarding time. But the one that just keeps coming up for me and for others is the dandelion. Dandelion, pardon. Once again, frog in my throat. Most people, I assume, know what the dandelion is. I love them. They're those little orange weeds that become puffballs that when you're a little kid are so exciting, and there's always at least one adult who's like, those are weeds. Well, they're still fantastic and bees love them. Now when we're working with the dandelion, we are often using the roots, the leaves, and the flowers are edible as well. The roots are very good for the liver, as well as the kidneys. The leaves are really good at helping support the kidneys. But I also want to talk about the leaves and the energetics of the dandelion being very supportive of the heart, and specifically having an overactive heart fire. This is when there is too much of the element of fire in our heart. Sometimes this can be called overjoy. And that doesn't seem like a bad thing. However, this is used specifically to refer to this kind of personality trait or an imbalance that we might be experiencing that is categorized with restlessness, with anxiety, with almost extreme boredom, and with the inability to cope with not doing. This is the person who is so enthusiastic. They have so many plans for the future, they have so many ideas, and they want to fit them all in. And it becomes this kind of almost a race or battle with time of trying to do more and more and more and more, and not necessarily being able to just be, to not be doing all the time, to not like, how do I want to put this? That person who is very restless and can't relax, essentially. Where it's anxiety, where it can become anger, irritability, if you're not, doing enough activities. And this can even be categorized by, think I got someone who has a to-do list in their day. A nice big long to-do list in their day where they're trying to fit everything in. And when they manage to complete that to-do list, there's like a short stint of like, oh cool, I got everything done. Now let's fit more in. Like, oh, that means I got all of these activities finished and complete. Oh, I'm done with all of that. Well, that means I need to be doing more. Let's bring in more. And if you don't manage to get everything done, which, let's face it, is impossible every single day of the week, especially if you're like packing everything in, then it's often like a drop. They don't know how to face or cope with not having completed everything, with not having managed to finish every single task, with a sense of kind of disappointment. And if for whatever reason their day isn't filled or packed with a big to-do list, you feel almost bereft, where you don't know what to do with yourself. There's no sense of peace. And when we're looking at this through our relationship with time, think about how it like skews our perception when we're just always looking for the next milestone. And we're always moving the goalpost of, finally, when this happens, I will be happy. I will be fulfilled. Ooh, next idea. And similarly, with that same level of like overjoy of enthusiasm, you might have a huge idea down the line, but your perception of how to get things done is skewed, so you don't quite know what to fill your time with in order to hit that milestone. So this is kind of all over the place, but I think you get this energy behind it, and I think a lot of us have experienced this. It is the trying to find fulfillment in doing and feeling like you're always in a race to try and fit and pack in as many ideas into our time as possible and not be able to just like breathe, enjoy being, realizing that time isn't the enemy. We don't have to like battle against it in an effort to get as many things in. This was a message I got on a journey the other day when I was journeying with Dandelion as well as my other allies. Specifically, like, there is no real, like, on a wider perspective, going beyond the humanity, going onto our soul, spirit level. There is not a giant like stopwatch or ticking time. It was a ticking time bomb, but like I'm seeing like a giant stopwatch in the sky, like ticking, tick, 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 ticking down. And we're just in this battle against it, trying to fit in as many things as possible before time runs out. That's not what is happening here. It's not supportive of us. It's not sustainable for our bodies or for our minds to not allow ourselves to rest, to just be, to do nothing. And I will say that this isn't just enthusiasm. there is a level of urgency and anxiety behind it, even if there is also excitement. And it is something that is kind of taught to us because we come from a culture where doing is the focus, productivity, and what you can do for other people. And most of our time is filled up actively working and doing things for others. And we don't really spend a lot of our energy or focus or time just allowing ourselves to be. So rounding this all out, whether you're working with Passiflora, with Oats, with Dandelion, with Impatiens, or another ally that has something to teach you along the way, time is not our enemy. It is our resource. It is an important one. And we should be able to value it and see it as our ally in what we want to devote ourselves to, what we want to give our energy to, what kind of rest we want to get. What are our priorities? And how can we use time to help with our priorities, with ourselves, with our ideas, with our inspiration, instead of feeling it or feeling like it's an enemy or feeling like it's a prison that we're in. And this is a pattern that does take some time, but I think it is an important lesson for us to learn, to be able to expand and see the expansion and the contraction and the expansion again of the flow of how we move, and just widen the perception of it and not feel so stressed and worried and stuck. So with that being said, if you made it this long, thank you everyone for listening to my train of thought rambling. I hope this served you in some way, or at least gave you like some idea of how you might want to work with these plants. And I'm hoping you have a wonderful rest of your day. Maybe create some time for yourself to just sit with a plant ally. Maybe take some time for yourself for a nap, or to devote to a relationship you have with another person.